He's going to answer now, it seems. One of the questions was asked earlier, and that is, Tzedek explained, h't'chk ka'achli, they were asking, the Medrash explaining, they were asking that they should deal with us like Yosef to Binyamin. Tzedek explained why that's a milah of Yosef and the brothers, because he didn't pain Binyamin. But the problem with that Pirush is that Yosef is the tzaddik and we're not. So how can we use that as a model? So the answer in part is coming now. Vine, the previous Ossi had spoken about Bakosha and all the pratim in the Bakosha, that there should even be the mile of tshuva, so much so, like the mile of the tshuva of the brothers. There was all the michya, and they saw Bagoli, it's all good, and it's all the kavan elyoina. Likewise, we're asking that our zdaina should be nefachim b'schuyas. That's all implicit in our request, meet and ka'achli, according to the Medrash. So even though the Bechlal Avodah of Tshuva is higher, as we learned till now, that's Kadosh Yisrael Yagilu, Mashenkin Tzadikim Zviyos Fanovim Bahavaya Simcha, as that I've explained earlier. And Shalachin Malkim Shabali Tshuva Emdi means Tzadikim Bodim Yechalim Lamed Boy, where a Tzadik stands, even a Tzadik Gomer cannot stand. Mikol Mokim, nonetheless, HaKavona, the Dirbe Tachtenim Nishlemes, Al Yedei Avidis, Tzadikim Dafke. That the Avodah of Dirbe Tachtenim is carried out as complete, not through the Avodah of Tshuva, but Avidis Tzadikim. As he goes on to explain, and this is what it says in Sifri. At times there should be some Midrash Bechelke Shel Binyamin Dafke. Why was the Beis Midrash built Dafke in Binyamin's Chelik, even though it belongs to who? All Klal Yisrael, who ke Binyamin Leihab Mechiras Yosef. Binyamin was not party to the selling of Yosef. To Lachet and moving. The question, however, is why are the Shvatim still penalized? They did tshuva for this, the Shemachas Yosef. And moreover, they're even higher than a tzaddik. So why is it built dafke in the portion of Binyamin and not, for example, Yehuda, which is the neighboring Shevet? And it's a Tzaddik explains, Shamayla, the Bali Tshuva al Tzaddikim, what's the mile of the Bali Tshuva with Tzaddikim is Shadiach Tshuva Magim la Bali Yosef. That Tshuva reaches high, as we learned earlier. Kadosh Yisrael Yagilu. However, but in order to draw the course down here, did it betachtenim, who are the tzaddikim, not stavke, but it's a tzaddikim. Because the Baal Tshuva is in a tnu of aliyah, but the tzaddik is mamshech. And the whole point of dirib tachtenim is to draw down the likus. וכימי שבעצם נשאוין דירה בתחתינים, since בעצם that's דירה בתחתינים, לכן היה בחלקו של בנימין דווקא in החלק הבנימין אבידס הצדיקים. And now explains in detail, ועניין הוא, the mile is about tshuva לגבי צדיקים הוא, what's the mile about tshuva, and why is in their avodah not the shleimus of the Amshacha v'likus? It's because Shem Kaiv Shemes Yitzra. The mile is Taka, that they conquer the Yitzhahara. This is the Rambam. Hamad Diskafia, the mile of Diskafia. Mile is Tzadikim, but the mile of Tzadikim, however, Shem Hapchim Es Yitzra. Transform the Yitzhahara. A mile is Hapchim. Now, the Mechiluk, which should be Yitzhapcha, of the differences between Yitzhapcha and Yitzhapcha is as follows. Shaydei Yiskafia, Amshacha said in Sof Shalmai Mishtalshal, is Taka through Yiskafia, is Amshacha, where it's which is high in Mishtalshal, is commandment, like it says in Zayar, God Yiskafia, Sitrach, through subjugating Yitzhahara, is Talke, Korachikabircha Bechol Almin. So there's a gilui of Yekara the Kuchabricha, the glory of Hashem, in all of the worlds, Amshachas, What kind of oil which is equal, in the face of which all worlds are equal, meaning which is higher than shaykhs to Elimus. However, what the but the gilu is in such a way, in the Avodah Viskafia, the Tachten is not a keli. And he adds in brackets, the fact that Viskafia means the Tachten is in a state where he needs to be compelled, moving against his will and his nature. It's understood that that's the whole thing of Viskafia. He goes against his nature. So the nature is not a keli for likus. So that's not the shleimus of Dira b'tachtonim, is to break the person. But rather, in order for tachten to be a keli, this is the avodah of the tzaddik. The avodah of the sabcha, and that's the ma'al of the sabcha, and that's Dira b'tachtonim. And hence, this midrash is built with chelkel shel binyamin. So the tachlis hashleimus is the avodah of the tzaddikim dafkim, not the avodah b'al tshuva. The Rabbi continues. He's chas v'sholem, not going to let anybody out of this. However, in light of that which is known, that every yid, there is now going to be masber that even the Baal Tshuva is the Ma'ale of Tzaddik. Even the one who's at the level of a Beinani, which is basically a Skafia. Which means there's inyanim which are not as they should be. Nonetheless, when this yid, every yid, therefore, Shemakayim mitzvahs, when he does a mitzvah, he's called a tzaddik. And he brings in the brackets, the Alter Rebbe brings it that mitzvahs are called. Don't know why now he doesn't bring that. He just brings Tanya, but the Mocker, if I'm not mistaken, is the Rishami. All mitzvahs are called tzedakah, and the word tzedakah, the word tzaddik. Therefore, the one who does the mitzvah is called at the time of his doing it, and therefore after as well. The one who did it, Al Shem HaTzedakah, mitzvahs. So therefore, Yesh Loimar. So again, having just stated that mitzvahs is the yin of tzaddik and tzedakah, therefore the Rabbi says, hence the yin of Yisabcha is not only by tzaddikim, lagam by mekayim mitzvah b'chalal. In general, the yid is mekayim mitzvah. The kivin shlei nitna. So you see, he's still fighting with the Yitzhahara. So where's the Yisabcha? She says the kivin shlei nitna mitzvahs elal tzar beres abriyas. Since as the Medrash says mitzvahs were given for no other reason other than to refine the creatures. Tziduf maloshem birur v'zichur. Tziduf is a term used in smelting and in creating silver, refining metal. So maloshem birur v'zichur. Therefore, b'chol pank shod the mekayim mitzvah. So the fact is that every time a person does a mitzvah, there's some element of refinement going on. There is some element of Yisabcha. So with respect to this nekuda, that he elevated and refined to become a tzaddik Yisabcha. So this is the element of Yisabcha. It also means in Avodah that even though a person is going to always be struggling, it doesn't mean struggling over the same issues, the same things. Well, that could also be. But there can be, and there is to some degree, an upgrade. We're still going to be in the battle, but it's of a different level. There's some level of Yisabcha. And certainly Pashtek Pshuta, doing the mitzvah, is elevating the object. He's doing a mitzvah with. There's the element of his habcha there. He says, Nisbare prat of the guf and nefesh bahamis. Not just the chiddush is not just the object. For sure, you take leather, you make film, Sabche. Every Yitzchak is to that. But here's the matter, the person, tzaddik, not just the tzedakah, that there's also this element of bitter within himself. It's a verse from the Rebbe Rashab about a hand that gives tzedakah and puts on tefillin, begashmius. There's a refinement to that hand, begashmius. Test, good, yesh lekasher. זה עם המבוא במיימר. So we're going to connect this there, which explains in the Maimer, the Amaschel Loving in Pesach Sheni, that's a Tzedek. To understand Pesach Sheni to the Tzemach Tzedek. Did you mention this before? No. Unless, no. The Bid of Tzemach Tzedek was not from Divided Tzemach Tzedek 20, no. I'm just wondering why, Lahav and Ian Pesach Sheni, in the Maimer, that's the Tzemach Tzedek. Why? Why is that like the Maimer on this? Anyway,
maybe because the Tzemach Tzedek is the one who said it's about Shuvah.
So, the one who said what? Tzemach Tzedek was Masbi. Why we're saying, you explained the Medrash, why we are asking Dafke like Binyamin, not the.
Well, but Tzemach Tzedek, basically, the question on the Alter Rebbe was from the Tzemach Tzedek. The Alter Rebbe writes that it's in Kotiter that they're tzaddikim, and the two perushim in the pasuk.
I don't know. In the Kotiter there's a maimer that starts off in Yom Pesach Sheni. Is there such a maimer?
I'm not sure. I don't recall.
So it could be this is the first such maimer. I don't know. Whatever could be. I don't know. What else you say? I don't know. So there he writes that Chili ben Pesach Sheni Pesach Sheni who behersim lachil ben shmein chedesh nisan chedesh iyar. The difference between Pesach Sheni, Rishon and Sheni corresponds to the difference between Nisan and Iyar. In other words, the child is why wasn't Pesach Sheni? Why isn't Pesach Sheni right away in Nisan? Why are we waiting to Iyar? Why the next month? Second chance, and in this and Nisan is still part of its Mitzrayim. It makes more sense that you make up for it in the season for it. Why is it after the next month? Because the two separate avodas. The avodah of Chedesh Nisan shenyana Yitzias Mitzrayim, the avodah the surmira. Haina sharav betokfa, the ra is in its full intensity. Avodah yalei surmira. So you got to run away. Lots is livrech me'ara, to run away and to flee from the ra, which is the avodah of iskafia. That was the matzav of Yidden then. But the avodah, the chedeshira, avodah, the s'tach iyar is about s'tach transformation. Like he says in the Koteter on the pasuk be'echad l'chedesh hasheni. The Tzeis Meretz Mitzrayim, there was a census then. So it was the first day, the second month. So the Rebbe says, "Sha'avodah harishon Yitzias Mitzrayim chedesh rishon, chedesh hasheni means the second avodah. The avodah of the first month of Yitzias Mitzrayim chedesh rishon, Yiskafi the Sitrach. That's the avodah of Yiskafi. L'achri zeh, but the second avodah shniya b'Yitzias Mitzrayim chedesh hasheni Yisabcha. There's another diak here, which I don't know, but the diak is that could be the diak is why does it say let's say some Meretz Mitzrayim? Because after say Bechad l'Chedesh Hasheni, wants to bring out it's a second to the first avodah, which was Yitzias Mitzrayim Yiskafia. This is already a subsequent avodah to that one. The avodah of what Chedesh Hasheni Yisabcha. So that's why the whole month is unique. The whole month of Iyar is Sfiras HaImer. You have elements of it in Chedesh Nissen, but the whole year is for the Soimer. Because what is year? Refining the midas and transforming them to Kedushi Sabche. Rabbi explains that it's a Tzedek. So Pesach Rishon, there is no tolerance for chametz. It can't be even in your possession. But Pesach Sheni, chametz matzah even baboyis. But Pesach Sheni, one eats matzah, but one can also have chametz. Why? Pesach Rishon shall be the sadayin in the muvaroros. Since Pesach Rishon, the midas not as of yet unrefined. And we have to control. Got to be very careful from the ra. Therefore, Bali Matzah, no chametz can be found. But the Pesach Sheni year, Shekva Yotze Me'ara, that's a Lashon of Tzemach Tzedek. We've already exited the Ra, gone beyond Yisapche. She'efshel levaru lezachis, ul'halu is gam b'sachametz. Now we can refine and purify and elevate even the chametz. The Rabbi adds interesting parallel. Likewise, tzadikim misapche, which is Iyar, and balitzuv iskafia nissen. What do we find in halacha? Tzadik has to say, I would want to eat this forbidden thing or do this. Actually, I would want to, but what should I do? My Father in heaven decreed I should not. But a Baal Tshuva has to say, says the Alter Rebbe, that only applies to a tzaddik. The Baal Tshuva has to say, I don't want it. Why? You say they can't allow himself any connection to it. Has to be on God carefully, because why? Surera, he's still inclined towards evil. And that's the Avodah of what? Of Iskafia. That's Nissen. Mashenkin, the tzaddik is already the process of Isapche. So what does it want to say? He said before that every Yiddish shaykh is the Isapche. Even the one who's a Benyamin below the Benyamin. It concludes, therefore, based on this, that's a Tzedek, the whole Chedesh is the Avodah Isapche. He concludes with the Isapche Gam Benegil Proti. We see, therefore, that, as he said before, at the end of the previous paragraph, that there can be a relative element of Isapche in a certain area in life, in a certain prat. Why do we see this in Pesach Sheni? Shari Pesach Sheni, which is Dafke when? In Chedesh year, it's Be'emtzi Me'asvir. It's in the middle of the Svir Evad Nishar, Adayin Midas Shetzarech Levaruram. And it's still Midas unrefined yet, still coming. And still called what? Pesach Sheni, and is the mile of what? Of the birur, and he still said that Tzemach Tzedek says that Pesach Sheni is the union of Isapche. Why? Because there is. Because with respect to that which he did elevate already till now, so what's the conclusion? That the Avodah of Isapche is shaykhus even in part, partially and in certain details. And therefore, it's shaykh every yid. Every yid, the union of tzaddik is also shaykh.
But the question why the Beis Hamikdash was built in the place of Binyamin,
because every yid has
that answer. Because every yid has that. Okay, got it.
Every yid has that. But what's interesting here is the Bederach Klal in Mavur and Chassid is the opposite. This is the Tzemach Tzedek. But Bechlal in Chassid is the opposite. The Pesach Sheni is obviously a Bali Tshuva. That's the whole point. Lamani Goren, they were Tomei. And it's one day. Shaita Choder, Ige Choder. Mashenki Nissen is the birth. That's a tzadikim, start innocent. It's latest Am Yisrael, progressing. Beseder Vadroge, 7 days. Here's a bit the opposite. And the answer to this contradiction is because the Choreh is that in the Avodah of Bali Tshuva, there's also the Avodah of Tzaddik, and then the reverse also. In the Avodah of Tzaddikim, there can be also, maybe it's harder, there can also be the Avodah of Tshuva. I'm just suggesting. But this beer is unique, this beer that's Tzemach Tzedek. The Pesach Sheni is the union of Avodah Tzaddikim, Yisapche. The Tzemach Tzedek doesn't use the word tzaddikim and bali tshuva, but he does talk about yiskafi and tzapcha. That's the difference. Yeah, let's go further. V'hinei, well, maybe okay, a few more lines and then the story. Now to get to the Sheidish Inyanim, why the Tiyes Mitzrayim is a way of what is Kafi. It's for so there is his transformation. Who Tiyes Mitzrayim came completely as a result of a Gilim Milamaila. And therefore, because it's all Milamaila, it's not Pnimius. Didn't come to Avodah, and an imshech b'pnimis kol kach, it doesn't penetrate the pnimis so much. Usfirisoim, yeah, the Avodah Sa'odam. Usfirisoim is Avodah Sa'odam. It's also the Lasato, the arousal from below. V'agila nimshech milamayla, the Avodah Sa'odam, and Avodah, the gili which we elicit through our Avodah. It's also the Leila Shali. Days are also the Latata, the arousal from above that comes through. The arousal from below the pnimis, that is the pnimis. Why? Because the person made him a keli. Now the chsaron is even though if the gila comes exclusively from above, it's higher than Avodah Sa'odam. Why in brackets? A nivra, a created being, can only go as high as his own source and not beyond. And yet in order 78, Hidu haraya ze mimayin ein etam. You know this is Bekitzer. I don't have a Gemara, but Bekitzer, the Gemara says like this. It's talking about the mikveh that the Kohen Gadol uses for one of his tevilas, which is not in the Azara, but it was on top of on the roof of one of the gates, the Shara Mayim of the Beis Hamikdash. Now this was 23 amas from the ground, because there was 20 amas was the wall. All the gates, rather, not the walls. All the gates are 20 amas, and then 3 amas in mikveh, at least 3 amas to make arboim. So you need at least 3 amas high the mikveh. So it was 23. The top of the mikveh was the water is 23 amas. So from the Gemara says, I don't know what it is. From here we see a raya that Ein Eitam, which is the highest place in Eretz Yisrael, was 23 amas, because this mayon, this spring, was provided the water for the whole Beis Hamikdash. Water goes down, so if it went up to the top to bring the water to the mikveh on top of the Shara Mayim, and that was 23 amas. So the mayin of Ein Eitam had to be 23 amas above the ground, at least, right? What do you see from the Gemara here? That you can't go higher than your shoulders. The water of the mikveh cannot be higher than its shoulders. And nivra cannot go higher than its shoulders. You follow? So actually there was a half a minute to build the Beis Hamikdash there in Ein Eitam, but then they built the Dafkin Yerushalayim a little bit lower. Rashi brings it, because the best part of the ox is the shoulder. So the Beis Hamikdash was built lower in height than Ein Eitam. The Mayan of Ein Eitam. Anyway, this is a raya nigla to this nakuda that a person cannot go higher than his shoulders. So that's the chsaron of what? Of the avodah b'dalamata. Let's conclude. So likewise, Tiyes Mitzrayim Tzvisoim Shagili Shag B'Tiyes Mitzrayim Hu Shenigal LeMelech Melech Magish Baruch HaKochei V'Atzmai. The mighty of Tiyes Mitzrayim was this unqualified Gili, the Eibishter himself. The Chedesh Eir or Nikra B'Shem Chedesh Ziv. Eir is called the month of Ziv, of the ray, in Sefer Malachim. The reason there is because the Avos are born in Nisan and begin to shine in the month of Iyar. Anyway, it's only Ziv, because what's revealed in Chedesh Iyar is only a ha'ara reflection, because Iyar is all about our effort. We'll continue this, Be'ez Hashem, on Monday.